Ready?
We're gonna do a pledge and prayer like we start all of our meetings. Good morning, everyone. We'll get started with the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
God, thank you for the opportunity to come together and do the business of the county. Pray you give the commissioners guidance and wisdom as they make decisions. Pray that you would just be in this meeting and enable everyone to work together for the good of the county. Pray in Jesus' name.
All right, so just a couple of things to get started, and then I know Randy's needing to get going. He's got some people waiting. The notice of special meeting I put out says that it's to discuss the 23 county and special districts budgets and take any necessary action. That's all we can do today is just talk budgets. With it being a special meeting, we can't get into other issues. Along with that, I gave you some information. The stuff on the letter size paper is copies of the various funds out of the budget as it stands right now. So it kind of gives you a comparison of what the actual expenses were last year, what we're projecting for this year, and then for next year, what we've put in based on what everybody turned in on their budget requests. The legal size sheets, one of them just shows what our value's done over the last several years. The other one basically was something Danny had asked me about, if it was going to be like an across the board cut on a percentage. On the fire, it would take about 7.5%, which is like $49,000. All the other budgets, it would be a little less than 1%. And I know when I answered Danny on that email, I said, I don't really think across the board will work because there are some things that are locked in that you just can't cut on. With that, I have two items that have come in just yesterday that will change what's in your budget. Christy couldn't make it today, but she gave me a new copy on hers where she knocked $4,900 out of her capital outlay due to some shelving that I think she's getting from district court. So she had that in there as a capital outlay and won't need that. So she took that much out of hers. And then I also got our unemployment rate notice yesterday in the mail, and our rate dropped a lot for next year. So on the benefits budget, I had budgeted $68,000 for next year for unemployment, and we'll actually be able to knock that down to about 11,000. So we're going to take 57,000 off of that. And that's just a result of the years that they based that rate on. We had very few unemployment claims, so our rate dropped down a lot. This is closer to what we typically get in a rate. This year, our rate was really high because we'd had a lot more claims in the years they looked at for this year. So that'll help us a little bit on the benefit budget. So I think that's all I got to start anyway.
Okay, you want to get started with Randy?
You want to address what we're here, though? Do you tell them, talk to them at all?
Pardon me?
Hey, just thanks. First of all, thanks for coming. And the goal is to try to get our budget within the revenue neutral without raising the county's portion of the taxes. So we started out probably a little bit, almost to $1 million, and I think we've whittled it down to about 600,000. So we're working to get to that revenue neutral, which means the county is not raising taxes for the county portion of the taxes for that year. And so I just want to talk to you about the valuation comparisons we'll just go back to 2014. I just want to say that our real estate back then was rated at, our comparison valuation was 64 million. And at 2022, it's 104 million. And then if you look at our personal property, it was 2.1 million. And now it's 2.8 million, which hasn't really raised that much over that length of time. Our state utilities was 116.4 million, and I'm just kind of rounding those off. And in 2022, it was 211 million and 700,000. And our oil and gas is 1.4 million in 2014 compared to 516,000. So it actually went down from 2014 to 2022. So anyway, those are some of the numbers that are out there. May not mean anything to you, but the goal here is to try to work with you to see if you can reduce your budget at all. All right? That's why we're here.
So David, which budgets were you said were absolutely locked in and we can't
Well, it's,
really move?
the first thing that just popped in my head when that came up was like the ambulance budget.
Right.
95-6% of that is contract with AMR. Other than that, there's a little bit in there for utilities, which we have no control over, and there's a little bit in there for repairs to buildings, which I think we need to leave a little in that in case something comes up, but the rest of it's their contract, so, I mean, we don't have a way to change that. We already have a contract on it.
Fair board budget is pretty well locked in, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think, yeah, Wade's here. I talked to him about coming in too, just in case there was anything we needed to look at there. What's some of the, like the benefits, that's basically locked in based on salaries. So there's really not a way to go in and cut and change that unless you're changing salary amounts or number of employees or something of that type. But, I don't know, other than that, it's really just more looking at individual budgets and see what's in them. I mean, depends on how tightly people already budgeted. If, say, take like my election budget as an example, I know I'm gonna have, ballot stock and programming and maintenance on my equipment and salaries. And I don't see where I'd be able to change much of it because those are like the ballot stock, and that's from ES&S. That's what they charge. It's what I'm going to need. So, yeah, and there's going to be a lot of them that have things in their budget that really, there's not much of a way to change them.
So initially with the cost of living, we were 900.
600 something, I believe.
I thought that was after the
So where we were,
cost of living.
what's in the budgets now does not include cost. And at that, we were, where? Let me find the
What
right
doesn't
page.
include it?
No. So we're like 204,000 away from revenue neutral without any cost of living on the county budget, and on the fire, we're about 49,000 away. Cost of living, by the time you put what I had budgeted, or not budgeted, but what I proposed was a 5% cost of living. And if you put that in with the benefits that go with it, it's about another 335,000.
Which we can utilize ARPA funds for that, right?
Let me look at the benefit budget, but I think I already have some of that in there. I'll have to look and see for sure. But,
Commissioners, is it okay? Can Wade go ahead and go?
Well, Randy needs to
Yeah,
go. He said,
I don't think you got anything even to talk to Wade about, do you?
Randy, you want to come ahead and so you can get going? So. Well, he's got somewhere to go. What do you do too, or? Okay. Okay.
let me jump back in for just a second. I do have those ARPA funds in the benefit budget already, so those numbers are,
With the 5%?
no, with where we are right now, where we're still 200 on the county and 49 on fire. I already have the 300 in ARPA funds in.
Okay.
From talking to David earlier in this week, started working my budget over, and I come across a couple questions. Maybe David can help me with these real quick. In the email, you had 49,000, close to 50,000 over. I don't mind cutting the budget, but you start cutting that 50,000, you guys are about the revenue neutral. That puts us below what we were this year, and we were revenue neutral. So I just was trying to figure out if the property valuations lowered, or, I mean, that puts us a lot lower than by almost 20,000 lower than what we budgeted this year. So I was trying to figure out where that 49,000 come from, first of all, if we're gonna cut that much. that puts us way below what we had budgeted and improved this year. So that was kind of my first question. I did get it cut down, total of 33 out of the 50,000 they were asking. And like I said, so for example, this year, the 2022 budget was $642,050. Cutting what we can right off the top, it gets it down to 624. So, I mean, that was my biggest question today is, hey, property valuations changed. Why did we have to cut that much to get, I mean, to me, it looks like now we're below revenue neutral compared to what was this year.
Okay, and I can answer at least some of that. With what we had in there in an estimate on the current year on fire, the budget itself was $642,050. The budget proposal we got showed that we would spend all of that this year. And if we do, our cash carryover would drop from 86,000 the year before to 28,000 at the end of this year. So that's part of what you have to make up in tax the next year is because that balance went down.
Okay.
So even with an increase in value, it just affects it because of the carryover cash.
Okay.
So cutting some out of this year's expenses would help that cash and in turn help the tax levy on the next year.
Okay. That was my big question was, hey, we were at this many mills this year and you're wanting to cut way below that. So, because our biggest increase was for fuel and the insurance. On the insurance alone, we took almost $10,000 increase on our vehicle and property insurance. And then fuel, we went from like 30,000 to 51,000 trying for next year. So I understand the budget neutral, but some of that stuff we can't help. So we may, even if it's a half a mil sometime, we may have to eventually raise it to get above that budget neutral just for the stuff we can't help.
So you got 33,000 out and you're a little over 16,000 over.
Yeah.
And what was your figure again? Did you?
I went back over basically the last 5 years of each kind of line item and see what the budget was. Where I had really. We need to get to that 50,000. We're going to have to do the transfer, the 50,000 at the end of the year transfer. Because I don't want to get too lean, then utilities get higher or something like that.
Help us out, David. On the transfer. What's your recommendation if we wanted to get to that revenue neutral?
And the other thing on his email he recommended was right now it's 6 months into it on our volunteer pay. We've had fewer runs, and so we're not using as much as we budgeted there. Maybe we could get some of that carryover from there too.
And you're talking the 50,000s for the new equipment carryover. So.
Yeah, that's about the only place I'd either that or like I said, we're not using as much volunteer pay this year. If we can transfer that, carry that over to help next year's budget. So.
Yeah, the transfers on that go to the special fire equipment fund. And last year we spent $512,000 out of special fire. So that balance is down compared to where it used to be. Obviously, if you're buying fire trucks, that's a big chunk all at once, and that's why that money gets put into there. And yeah, we could transfer a little less to help it, but then do you have enough left in that fund if you've got trucks coming up that you need to buy? So it's just
I think it's setting close to 350,000 now, and we'll have a truck due for 2024. So that would almost wipe that budget out. So That's why I would rather see, hey, we're running shorter on runs this year. If we can carry that over, cut that 50,000.
Yeah, and that was one of the things that I had looked at too, was it didn't look like we would probably need all of that payroll money this year based on what's happened so far. So definitely could make some adjustment there.
And there's another one that I talked to your office about. in the contractual that we'd probably carry quite a bit over because it's a fund that we don't use. So. And it had like 27,000 in it.
And what's that there for?
So what it is it's a fund that's station meeting pay, and they don't take anything out of it. I talked to them, they've been paying the station meeting pay out, just our volunteer pay. And last couple of years, it's set there at 27,000 in it. So there's 27,000 budgeted this year. That's one of the places I cut quite a bit because they're not taking anything
That
out.
was a policy change a year or two ago where they decided to start paying the firefighters for attending the meeting like it was a call
Right.
instead of doing the station meeting.
Right. And they've been paying it just out of that 110,000 that's been budgeted instead of taking it out of that fund. So even for this year, there's that money sitting there that's not being used that we can carry it over.
Take it out.
He's already did it. You've already worked on that, right?
Yeah, I left, talking with David's busy, but talking with some of his staff, they're like, we don't want to take it completely out, but I cut the 27 way down.
So you're at 33 and we need to get like 16 some thousand.
Yeah.
Okay, look,
So,
And again, keep in mind through all that, we have not put any cost of living in there yet.
Right.
It's going to affect.
okay. So let us work on that and get back with you on it.
and if you guys.
Thanks for the
If you
effort.
need, I have the line items all broke down. I just didn't get copies of them. That kind of.
You got them? You want to just leave them with us?
I'll make copies and
Okay.
email them to David. Or
Thank you.
So, thank you guys.
Thanks, Randy. Hey, you need to come in.
Okay. I was just, in response to trying to cut things down a little bit, I did a pretty rough budget on what we have, the projects we have coming the next, that we're engaged in now and for the next couple of years. This year with our distribution, we have a surplus. We burn that up in 2024. If we continue to receive the usual 125,000 or so. That's kind of the way the thing's budgeted. So we have room now, and depending on how much bad news we get on a couple roofs in the next couple of years, we burn through all of our excess that we have this year. So we'll work with you, but that's kind of what we're looking at, is no extra here in a couple of years.
And their funding comes from a separate levy. It's not really, I mean, it's in our budget, but it's a separate.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they have the authority to go up to $500,000 if they need it. Which
Yeah.
we're nowhere near $500,000.
Right.
We've got in there.
It's worked pretty well at that level that we've been at, so we,
And where are they at right now? Over. We're just looking for. You said you'd work with us, Wade. What's that mean?
what do you need?
I know. We need a lot, but
Yeah.
yeah.
This year, I would guess I have about 30,000 in excess. Next year, if we burnt that, I would be under 20 next year, for what we have lined up.
Okay.
And as it stands at the moment, their levy part of our budget would be 0.394. So again, they're still under what they could tell us they need.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
And you can go to $500,000, is what you said.
Yeah.
So in 2022, you had 68,000, not just because of COVID? You guys didn't do as much, or is that?
That's,
Just,
I don't know what that number is.
that was when we were budgeting last year.
Yeah, you dropped it down last year.
Oh, yeah,
We
sorry.
talked-
Yep.
You
Yep.
actually took a
Yep.
drop last year.
We did.
It
Yeah.
had been at 124 the year before.
Yeah.
And that was just, I think when we were working on budgets, Gary had talked to you guys and said that's all you really needed
Yeah.
last year, or
Yeah.
for this year's budget.
Yeah.
I got it.
So,
You got anything else, Danny?
Hey, thanks, Wade. We'll work with you.
We'll see you. Next is, anybody else need to go?
Want to go, Sheriff?
Morning,
Good
Commissioner.
morning.
Kevin Fran, Linn County Sheriff. Gentlemen, in looking, we got a lot of novel stuff coming with this new building. And one thing I'm concerned about is where our 23 insurance vehicle, professional liability, building, and all that stuff's going to kind of fall in. So I don't know, the places where we could look at doing some cuttings, probably in that out-of-county housing budget. We left 55,000 in it this year under tentative approval, and I think we could probably bring that down and hope for, not much in conflictual inmates.
What do you use that for mostly?
Well, moving into the new facility, it's out-of-county housing. I
Right.
mean, historically, we've been over 300,000 a
Right.
year in that budget. We cut her down last year to 100,000, this year down to 55. I think we could probably look at leaving that at 20,000 and be okay. So we'd be, carving a little bit out of that to work with this problem. I'm in fear on other things. I mean, other things are, our contractual stuff, and things like that, which in the new facility, what are our costs actually going to be? We have studies, but we don't know true costs. We haven't received bills yet.
Do
So
we have any idea what the insurance on that building is? Yeah.
I haven't got anything on it yet. I've let them know that we were ready to move in but I haven't seen a rate yet.
I think, I mean, I don't know, because, with like the district court building, it'll still exist. So we'll still be insuring that. The old prosecutor's building still there. So we're still insuring that. I think, there's not a lot of money from other places to push back to justice.
Looks like
And
you went up 5,000 anyway, didn't you?
what's
You
that?
went up 5,000 on your utilities, didn't you?
I didn't go up no, on utilities. Yeah. The only thing we raised was projected increases for 23 versus 22. So, I'm not really sure where we're going to land on insurance. That kind of scares me. Is it going to be, we're at 59,000 now in professional liability, building, auto. So where do we go with this structure? We're looking at something 5 times bigger with a prisoner load of, almost 5 times bigger. So I just don't know how that insurance is going to play out. And that's my biggest fear is, if I get an insurance bill for 100 and some thousand, in this building, we're going to be going over budget
Right.
as we stand.
So you think you could probably cut out of that one fund, maybe 30,000 out of it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Safe to say.
I mean, worst case scenario, we run into conflictual stuff. I think in 24, we'll know more. I think we could probably drop that even more from a $25,000 budget rate. So, but I know that can come out. We probably could take some out of healthcare, but I'm really in fear of that because, that's a gamble anyway.
Right.
And we've seen that historically. We've gambled with healthcare and failed. Right now, we're kind of at what our historical average would be to fund that. So
I appreciate the effort. I think 30.
the only place I know of for certain that we could probably get away with something is out of county housing. I'd still like to leave a little bit in there to have a buffer. If Linn County is the victim of an incident, we would house that person outside of Linn County. So that would be problematic if we didn't have a budget for that.
Yeah, I don't have any questions.
I want to jump in on the income side with taking prisoners in from other places. Kevin and I talked about that last weekend or sometime. It's really hard to know at this point what we're going to have, but I do have 150,000 income in this year and 500,000 next year. And I got those numbers from you just as a guess. And we think that 500 probably is conservative for next year.
I do.
But at this point, we don't have a federal contract.
That's right.
We don't know if we're going to get anything there. So, I would rather be conservative on the income estimates because if you say you're going to get $1 million in and then you don't,
Right.
you're in trouble in the whole fund.
Well, your best guess turns into your best lie at that point, and I'd rather be very conservative with those numbers. I think, I think we have a really good opportunity on a federal contract. I know that some other local counties around us are terribly interested that'll produce income for us. So I think we'll have great opportunity there. I think, in 24, we could be up around the $750,000, and I think that's still conservative. But I think we got to start slow to get there. I mean, we can't just slam everything in place and go. So,
Sure.
but I really do. I believe we could still be looking at income this year if we can get in there and get moving. We've already had offers from jails, quite frankly, within 2 or 3 counties around us. Even if we don't, if we're not awarded that federal contract, which I think we will be, but I can't. That's my best guess.
No, I appreciate the effort. And that's what we're all here for, is to try to work together. And just to start off today, that, the fires, found 33,000 in their budget. The sheriff's found 30,000 and 57,000 in unemployment. And Christie's found 4,900 and Burton couldn't be here for medical reasons. It was dropped 2,500 in his budget. So we're working towards a goal here to lower that this year so we can get to that goal of revenue neutral, which to the public means, are we raising taxes or not raising taxes on the county portion? And I appreciate that.
Thank you,
Are
Commissioner.
you safe on fuel, Kevin? Are you safe? I have notes in here talking about that.
No, when we did budget, I budgeted $4.99 a gallon, 30,000 gallons for 23. That's kind of where we're at historically. But I don't know where we're going to go on fuel. I remember I told you guys, if you look at any piece of the budget, look at fuel.
Right.
'Cause that might be where we need some direction. But yeah, fuel's way up, of course. And, that's where my increases came, really was fuel and inmate transport, which is also fuel. So, I tried to keep everything, the same as last year, except for fuel. I just can't.
Okay. Thanks, Sheriff.
Thank you.
Who wants to go next? Pardon me?
Kathy Bridges, the appraiser, county appraiser. I don't know, I sent you information, David, about the 20,000 over, and does the reappraisal fund or the reserve fund affect, would that affect anything?
The only thing we'd have would be what you plan on transferring to that.
Right, I was gonna say that was,
Yeah, that fund itself is not going to have any effect on the levy. It's just whether or not you transfer out of your budget into it.
right, it was just to make everything clear, is when I had reported did my proposed budget, I was gonna have a 20,000 overage from this year to just put in my reserve for next year. So I don't know if that would be an ability to just remove that reserve or not, but that was something, because I do think it's important to, number one, for our employees, the cost of living for them, and just because I do feel like we need to take care of them. But I don't know if that would be something or not, David, but that's 20,000 there.
So you have 20,000 budgeted this year to transfer.
Right,
Yeah. So yeah, if you knock that down some, that would help the levy.
right. So,
Right now, there's,
How does that affect you? Like,
well, we have our reserve right now that we need to get a new vehicle. And so that reserve was just going to be added to that fund. I believe we have enough. I mean, just you never know what may come up as far as equipment and different things, but that was going to be put in our, we have a reappraisal fund, a reserve fund. And so it's probably, I think next year I would probably rather it go to the staff, and so I could keep staff versus, as far as
yeah, but
that.
you're talking about cost of living, right?
Right, cost of
So
living.
that's basically what
Right,
David's fighting for
Right.
for all the employees.
right. And so
5%.
this would be a contribution to help towards lowering the levy.
39, almost 40,000 in reappraisal reserve right now.
And so I could,
A transfer this year of 20 would kick that up to almost 60,000 sitting in there.
so I would have enough.
In between somewhere, wouldn't have as much in reserve, but it could reduce this year's expenses.
Right,
Okay.
so,
So you're saying take the 20,000?
We could take up to 20,000. You could live with it
right,
and be safe. Feel
so.
okay.
yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Kathy. Who wants to go next? Soil conservation.
Good morning.
Theirs has been the same about 10 years, hasn't it?
Yeah, I'm Roger Medlin with the Linn County Soil Conservation District. I'm the treasurer. Our budget request is 43,000, the same as it's been the last 2 years. What we contribute to the county, I'd like our DC and our secretary to let you know, and we're trying to hold it the same. Our surplus is 15 to 20,000, and we need to keep it there if we can.
Okay.
So basically, for cost share, on 2020, we brought in 28,629 in projects. We got funded $31,019 in 2021 and $26,308 in 2022 for a total of $85,956. 2023, we're looking at $31,000 that they're giving us to do funding for different producers here in the county. Then in the CRP, over the last 3 years, got $112,867.
And that's a Farm Service Agency federal program that NRCS go on.
That's it though, 112,000?
That's for 3 years, yeah.
For
Yep.
2 years, they didn't have any funding at all.
Yep. No new signups in those years. So, yeah, federal program, of course, the NRCS, who's in the same office with Conservation District, we provide all the technical planning on that, as well as planning assistance on the state cost share projects. And then for NRCS cost share programs, which the district also helps us out with assistance from time to time. We had 8 EQIP projects funded in years 2019 to 2022, so 4 years worth of signups that totaled $238,167. And then in the same 4-year time span of 2019 to 2022, we had 3 conservation stewardship projects or CSP projects funded worth $313,723. So quite a bit of federal funds being spent in the county as well.
So you definitely, you don't feel like you can make any cuts at this time for the county budget? Okay. And it's set at 43,000 or even, wasn't it?
Yes.
Okay. I don't have any questions.
You got anything?
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Pam, you want to come in?
EMP GIS Mapping Department. I did not increase my budget this year, and it's kind of hard. A lot of our expenses are after the budget, so it's kind of hard to look in the crystal ball to know what you're going to spend for the rest of the year. But the internship thing fell through, so I know there's $2,500 there I can take out of this year's budget, and I think I can get another $1,500 out there, so $4,000 I could reduce
Thank you.
for this year.
Thank you. Janet, you want to go now? No. Jessica?
So I've got 2 budgets. The airport budget, I asked for an increase. The total, I think, was 10,000. I really don't think that I can take anything out of the airport budget unless you want to
Just
not.
refresh our memory on the airport.
So we
Everybody.
budgeted $8 a gallon for fuel for our 6,000 gallon fuel tank. So that's a total of 48,000. That's for purchasing fuel. And then I also asked for $5,000 in capital outlay for the development plan that I'm trying to get a grant for this fall. I mean, I really don't see anywhere else that I can cut out of for the airport.
Okay. 17,000 that we had in there last year for what, did we have that last year? Or was that special? When they did all the dirt work and stuff out there, was around 17, wasn't it?
I don't remember the details on last year on it.
For the road that we built out
Yeah.
there. Yeah.
So was that budgeted in,
No,
oh, it wasn't?
no. That was an overage, I believe. I don't have the amount in front of me.
So if we're spending 48,000 for buying fuel to resell, the thing I could see there where we could make a difference is how much income we get in from fuel sales, because I don't have that much income in there. So if we were gonna buy,
We're selling it for $5.50. I'm considering raising it again.
so
What are we making roughly a gallon on?
So I think we bought it for just over 4, this tank. I don't have that right in front of me, but a little over $1.
but I can go back and adjust the income estimates because if we're gonna spend that much on it, we're planning on selling that much.
Sure.
So I can bump the income up.
And we typically sell a full tank in a year. We've been purchasing in October.
And that's how many gallons?
6,000.
6,000 gallons a year.
Yep.
And then you have 5,000 budgeted for the matching grant,
Yes,
which is the business plan.
right. And operating procedures.
I guess we can't talk about it, never mind.
So you probably can cut some out of that budget, obviously, based on the projected fuel sales.
If we make it $1 a gallon,
Yeah.
it'll be up to 6,000 a gallon if we sell that. There's,
If we change that, so the income isn't in my budget here.
right.
So I don't know what that looks like, but, I mean, yeah, if David says that we can change it based on the income from the fuel sales, then yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. And then for economic development, I think I can, take another 5,000 out of contractual.
And just for state and what was your budget for the economic? I'm just wondering.
What I requested was 106,344.
Oh,
You have anything, Danny?
Gary, when we sell lots out there, does that help offset the cost?
in general?
Well, the funds from those lots just go into the general fund. So, I mean, in the long run, yeah, it helps offset.
For the entire county?
Yeah.
About 6,000.
It increases the likelihood that we'll have a carryover. I mean,
Huh?
That's a real high projection, $8 a gallon.
David, she said she could take 5,000 out of economic development.
The contractual line item.
$4 is what she had in it right now.
Mhm.
That's selling it for 5.
Yeah. All right. Well,
Then,
Add something to that,
which part?
be about $100 out there selling.
Yes.
fuel. Plus they take so much out of each credit, so you're not making $1.
Right. And we'll get with David on that. Yeah. I assume that there's a credit card charge, right? Is it 2%? Do you know what it is, David?
It depends on what card company it is. Yeah.
we pay $100 a month just to have.
Just to have that service out there.
We'll figure it in before we take it out.
Okay.
You had previously budgeted at $7 a gallon, right, you said?
Yeah.
8. Was it 7 or 8?
So this year it was budgeted at 7. I want to increase it to 8 just because nobody knows what it's going to do.
Okay.
Not anything else.
Thanks.
Thanks, Jessica. Chris?
Morning, Chris Martin, Linn County IT. We're already pretty lean. However, we went up 3,000 this year. Where that come from was a new computer for Nick. His was 5 years old. Insurance and a little bit extra fuel. So, I mean, we could certainly back that down 3,000 to 4,000. And I think we'd be okay this year on that.
Is the insurance already figured in with you, David, or is that just each individual section?
We split it out.
Okay.
The insurance bill, and you've got an additional vehicle now more
Yeah.
than used to, so we had to go up on his share of that to cover another vehicle.
And And your budget was, go ahead, I've got it right here, but I want you to read it. What was your budget, projected budget for next year is 158,450?
158, 450, correct.
And you thinking you can cut 3,000? Is that what you said?
3 to 4.
Okay.
Good.
Thank you.
Yep.
I don't have anything.
Thanks, Chris. You have anything, Dan?
Nothing out of the judicial center over here came out of your budget from last year, did it?
I don't know
That
what you mean. Like,
Everything you had to deal with over there was paid for out of the general fund, right?
Well, he's in general fund anyway. I think there probably were some odds and ends.
there was. I mean, there was some,
His budget.
different.
But it didn't affect your budget from last year or anything? I mean,
No, we didn't increase it for the Justice
Okay,
Center.
that's what-
No,
that's all I had.
Okay.
Thanks, Chris. Great, Laura.
Lori Simmons, District Court. We haven't increased our budget the last couple of years, but our attorneys are getting a raise. So I kind of rearranged our line items, but I can. I'm still not sure what we're doing with the cleaning. If I'm not paying for a cleaning lady, I can take that out. And if I'm not paying for supplies, I'm not sure how we're doing that yet. I mean, I can take about 5,000 out of our budget, but I'm not sure how we're doing anything. I'm not sure about our utilities, that kind of stuff. If I'm not paying for that, I mean, before I'm always, I don't know how to budget.
Where does
If
it,
somebody can tell me, I mean, I
Where
can take
does
some of that
utilities
stuff
come
out.
from?
Okay, so I think our plan over here was we've got the utilities in Kevin's.
Yeah.
Is that correct? So I don't think you would.
So it's utilities and the supplies, if that's not coming out of my budget,
We already.
or if no utilities, there's quite a bit I could take out, but I don't know how that's gonna,
how about the cleaning?
Yeah, but the utilities, I want to hear on the sheriff's part, because that's a huge thing for him to take on. I know you wanted, it has to all be, it makes sense to all be there, but how, have you talked to Gary and everyone else that's here that's involved in that, how that would work?
Yeah, we've actually talked about that.
Okay.
In my budget, the tentative proposal, I budgeted, for this project based on studies that we did. I budgeted 117,000 in utilities for the building, that's gas, water, electric. So we've also budgeted all of our, maintenance, boilers, maintenance to fire systems and all of that stuff. Maintenance to everything, whether it's, soft water systems or whatever. So I put all of that in my contractual and in my utilities fund. The question that I had and that Lori still has, is where do supplies come from? And we're talking about paper products and soaps and things like that that would be used facility-wide. So I'm sure Lori's probably had to leave that in her budget.
I did.
And I haven't budgeted not knowing.
Okay.
because I budgeted utilities, telephone, electric, supplies, and so I can take some out if I'm not,
Yeah, like
I just need,
your telephone, I think we'd still split out. Just
okay?
got that set up. Chris is shaking his head yes.
What, Rick?
But the utilities, that's in the water, sewer, electric, things like that.
Custodial.
Do you think that Rick figured in any custodial stuff for on his budget for that building?
Sean, do you know?
For you, but as far as the new building, and we went up on custodial, I think because of the employee and the new building, we adjusted it 20,000 overall.
So are you trying to, can you answer their question? Are you furnishing all the stuff for over there?
I cannot answer that question.
So we have an unanswered question we got to find out, okay? And we will.
And you never budgeted anything yet, right, Sheriff?
I didn't know,
Okay.
sir, because I don't know what district court costs would be, or what, IT costs would be, or what prosecutor costs would be for those products.
Right.
Paper, supply, stuff like that. I just don't know. So that was my question back in my budget, when I presented to the commission, was where is that gonna come from? And if, I don't do it, I just want to know, because if it all falls back on me, I mean, we're gonna have to take all those budgets that are
Sure.
existing and throw them into a budget somewhere.
I would think that we'd want it custodial under you with Rick and them.
I think so.
I just mentioned, I throw Rick under the bus. I don't know, but I mean, custodial would probably be there
Under who?
under Sean.
And you said it's 20,000. What did it come up from last year?
Yes. But there,
But that's a take.
But everybody's not doing that. That's the thing. The whole system is not that way. People are ordering their own. Don't you order your own stuff from you? Yeah. No, not custodial, but like your paper and pens and all. That's it. That's all. Just the custodial part.
He's not talking about office supplies. He's talking about
Janitorial.
cleaning.
Correct.
I know, but we should just do all of it
Would it be better if we did all of our office supplies,
through one
one central
Office supplies?
everything.
office
If
supply?
you just ordered it through Sean.
I don't think Sean should be dealing with that.
I'm just throwing Sean under the bus for now. He can figure it out.
But each office has unique needs.
Okay.
I mean, there's some certain kind of paper
I think
they use.
janitorial supplies should be ordered probably through one.
yeah,
Right.
we do like in the courthouse building, the copy paper and stuff. Christie orders that for all of us.
There you go.
So it comes out of
Okay.
courthouse already. But we all have individual things. Like Janet's got forms she needs. I've got forms I need. So we take care of some of our office supplies.
Comes through your
ourselves,
own
too.
office.
Okay.
Lori just asked it, but it is how are we paying for the janitorial
Correct.
services? With our new employee through Public Works coming into our spaces and working in those, are we gonna be billed for that service, or is that service gonna be a county-wide service that's paid for under Sean's budget without paying us? Because I think in the past, Lori always had money where she had
Yes,
to
I
pay
pay for my own cleaning person.
I use my staff to do a lot of that stuff, jail staff to do a lot of our janitorial stuff. So we didn't have that. And that was the other question that involves janitorial, is how do we pay for that? And how is that gonna look, or is that gonna be in its own budget and taken care of without our input?
Okay.
My understanding, Jackie will be cleaning the Justice Center, is that correct? And I don't know, is she a county employee? So,
And that's part of the increase in the custodial budget because we've got another person there more than.
So did you figure this for the next year? Did you already figured that in custodial at all?
yes,
So how much is that in
that
that?
was 1,800.
1,800. Okay.
Um,
And then,
and I had like 3,000, I believe, for supplies.
okay.
So, I mean, if I'm not paying for that's like 5,000.
Right.
Um,
But it's just going to have to be moved over to, if we centralized it. Is that what you want, Sheriff? You want centralized?
I think we have to, unless, I mean, we're gonna receive a bill essentially, and I would be transferring my budget money, just like Lori's transferring her budget money, and we're just playing a big round.
Yeah.
And if it did all fall under Sean, again, I'm sorry, throw Sean under the bus, but if it did all fall under him, it might just be cleaner.
Sounds like it. Would you agree to that?
yes.
Okay. So not that we've accomplished anything yet, but at least maybe we've accomplished that.
Never added anything to your budget for this yet, right, Sean? For
Yeah, he increased it, but he didn't know that.
I increased it, but I did not adjust it with that in mind. That I was gonna take
how much did you increase it?
Did that
on
20,
those line items, I can't tell you on the line items. I
That-
don't have those line items with me.
Okay.
Okay.
So we don't need to do anything, but just make it known that, Sean, that's going to be part of your budget from now on. So just add that to it. And then,
And what about utilities? Have we decided?
yeah, we haven't figured that one out yet because we don't really know what utilities are yet.
And will we be dividing them up by department?
I'll refer to Dave on that. David, what's the easiest way for you, best way for you?
Easiest way is to have it all in one spot, and right now it's in Kevin's.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're currently taking care of all utilities on building, water, sewer, electric.
And if that's the case, I've line itemed that in my budget as well.
And we just transferred it over. Yeah.
Did you add to your?
You've already budgeted for that.
I don't think we would need to transfer. I think it's money coming back to the county because I've already budgeted that.
Okay.
So you budgeted and she has too, is what we're saying right
Kind
now.
of.
And if we took.
So how
her-
much is that?
10,000.
$10,000. You're a savior. Thank you. And then that other money, then, the custodial money, we'll see if it needs to be moved over to him in case he needs to up it a little bit, but.
Okay.
So 10,000. Thank you.
Thank you. Who wants to go now to the outside facility or outside? You guys can help me out here on who you are, but.
Nathan Fossen, Southeast Kansas Mental Health. We requested a 2.4% increase over last year, equal to 2,741, and we could forego that increase this year.
Can you say that one more time? Sorry.
2,741 was the amount of increase we asked for this year over last year.
Right, you asked for $118,459 this year. Is that right?
I believe it was,
Or your SEK, right?
yes.
Yeah. That's what it says. You asked for 116,000 the year prior.
Okay,
Yeah. And you could give that up?
we could give that up.
Appreciate it.
Increase.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Pardon me, John Platt with Trico. We provide services to folks with developmental disabilities. We had been operating under the same budget amount since 2021. It had increased. So we want to do our part. So I suggest going back to what we were funded at 2020 levels, which would be $80,096, which would be a difference of around 2,400, maybe a little bit less.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Sure. You want to come ahead, Janet? Getting down to you.
All my increases are due to stuff that's out of my control. All my supplies to mail my statements was his statute have went up. My publication have all gone up. So I pay back from motor vehicle every year. This year it was $7,500 around. So I've paid back in more than my increase by about $1,500. So if I'll take any suggestions on how I can lower the supplies I have to do the job.
I don't have anything. If you've worked hard and you think you're solid where you're at, then I don't have any questions about it.
Do all you can do, and that's all we can ask.
That's all I can do.
Okay. You have anything, Dan? Thanks, Janet.
See, that was easy.
Sean?
Got in that.
Our levy's going down. If they hadn't passed this whatever it's called,
Revenue neutral?
our levy's going down by about 4 mils.
But they did pass it. So let's hear it, Sean.
Sean West, Public Works. I've got several funds. One's the custodial that you mentioned. And the adjustments on it are only going to be after we determine what happens and who is going to pay for commodities and supplies from the new building. The only increase that I adjusted was on
Or new person's pay, is that figured?
well, the 20,000 roughly increase is for what I adjusted in commodities and salary for the new building and the new employee, but I didn't know how much to adjust that and how much responsibility that we were going to have in that area. And that, again, with the addition of another full-time employee, that budget line or that salary and department only coming up 20,000 was very conservative, with the addition of another employee. And
So leave it alone until you.
I don't know that there's going to be a lot of wiggle room in that without a lot more information.
Okay, we need to figure it out, though.
We need to figure out as far as the employees and how much we're gonna raise for supplies.
Can you go, skip over that and just go to the, what are you on next? We'll come back to it.
Noxious weeds, we went from 144, 300 to 170, 500. This adjustment, from the historical data, we haven't had people full-time in those positions or
For about 5
used it.
years.
So it was very difficult to adjust that. Also, the commodities and the chemicals, not only the amounts of chemicals that weren't used, but the amounts of increases in the chemicals, and then also the adjustment for the projection for next year for them taking over bug spraying and the pest control in the buildings.
But we should be able to take that
Yeah.
off somewhere else.
Yeah. So on your 170 budget, 170,500, it went from 136 to 170. You're saying there's no wiggle room for that?
With the chemical
Because it's a lot of it's guess, right? I mean,
Yeah, a lot of
cost,
it is
how much?
moving numbers that I'm guessing from historical data. And I don't believe there's going to be a lot of room there.
Okay, so we'll probably work from there. Go to your next one.
Planning and zoning,
98,000 was your 500 this year, and last year's was 82,586. Is that what you got?
we got total spent for last year was 82, correct? It was 82,586, and the actual budget for last year, I have it 104,500.
We have it 98.5.
Yeah.
Or no,
For
that-
this year,
that was
it's
last year.
98.5.
The budget,
Oh, I guess-
that middle column, what you're looking at is what we're estimating this year's expenses are gonna be, but the budget for this year for that one was 104.5.
So we're actually going down.
We had decreased 6,000 on the budget request.
That was misleading. Okay, go ahead.
My next was the elderly fund. This one, we're looking at 245, 161, and that's coming up from 244, 829. And the majority of that, I believe, is going to be on the estimates on fuel. And some of this that you'll see, there was some coding issues and stuff that David and I talked about where things were pulled from non-transit and transit that I think we've got adjusted and worked out now that should make it easier to track and adjust for next year.
You said fuel, what would,
What was the actual budget for 2022 in the elderly?
I have it here in just a second.
Actual budget for 2022 was 244, 829.
So the increase on the request there was $332. Correct?
Correct.
This estimate of the 210, 759, that's what we think we'll use?
Yes.
That's even with the high price gas. I mean,
That is with the high price of gas and the the funds that were being pulled that David and I talked about adjusting because we were pulling transit funds out of non-grant funds. And I think we've got that adjusted now so that they come out of the correct line items.
So will we have some wiggle room there if that is the actual cost, the 210 versus the 245?
Well, we've already figured the actual 210 in this year's. It's whether or not you need the 245 next year.
Right, that's what I mean.
I don't know.
It's $35,000.
Are you got any projected, are we buying anything else? We asking for
We've asked for money for vehicles, but those
are government, right?
Those are again, that half of this is grant money, not half, but a portion of this is grant money. So some of the requests we've made are for grant funds, and the vehicles are what we're looking for grants. But I can't tell you when. Joyce just had a meeting yesterday with those folks over the phone, and we can't tell you when those things are going to occur, and they keep pushing the projections out. So what we do expect to go up is our maintenance cost on the two vehicles that we're using now, because
sure,
I mean, we're blowing radiator hoses and putting them in the shop as much as we're getting use out of them, and it doesn't look like we're going to get them replaced anytime soon.
Did the area of aging contract go up any?
I cannot answer that.
I don't think so.
I've not seen anything from them.
No, they asked for 23,000 last year before last, or whatever, 24,000. We cut it from 54 down to that. They got tons, and I'm on their board, so they've got tons and tons of grant money. So I wouldn't think that they'd want additional money. That's probably why they didn't even put it. They probably just want to keep it the same. At this point, they are, even if they weren't.
The next fund that I'm looking at is the park fund. And we're looking from the last year at 328.5, an increase to 354.
From, what was I have three, okay, go ahead.
And most of that is going to be the estimate on utilities and contractual, and that's going to be based on the decaying infrastructure, the pump systems for the lagoon, the electrical, and what we probably are going to have to spend on our park facilities before we look for any grant opportunities after.
When we budget this, David, as far as income that comes from that, where does that come into the picture at? Park income from the park.
It's in the general fund income.
Okay. Yeah. And I think we're already above from what I've got this year on our expenditures.
Yeah, the income has been good this year.
Yeah, we've already, come to 12,000 over our expenditures this year by June, which is, I think, maybe 30, 60 days ahead of what we normally would do. Next one I have is solid waste. And solid waste was my largest of the budgets as far as a jump. And I did ask Al, the only department head I asked to come with me, and I appreciate his help, mainly because the department heads themselves didn't have a lot to do with the budget numbers, but I did bring him in to explain that jump and why I adjusted it.
State what that budget proposal is for tentatively this year, and then what it was last year, so the public can hear.
The proposal this year is $720,600. Last year it was $644,600, and I'll ask Al to explain the amounts that we're taking in the tonnage, the tipping fee increases, the surcharges that we're facing for some of our products such as tires went up not only in their cost, but in fuel surcharges as well. And then we're also looking at other issues coming up next year as far as testing for water testing on our old sites, C&D sites. And we're quite possibly going to have to look at another way of handling our large mattresses that may not be able to go to C&D and will not fit in our compactor system. So I just asked him to come in and explain the reason for that increase.
Every 5 years, KDHE has us monitor the wells that are on the old landfill. We have 9 of them. So we have to take water samples and they have to analyze what's in there. This year is, if our samples come out good, this will be the last year we have to do it. But it also means that we have to abandon all the wells.
And what's that mean to us?
It's going to cost us.
Like what?
An engineer.
Engineer and EPA.
Yeah, we're going to have an engineer.
Can't just fill it in.
And they're going to come in and at every well, they have to go in, and he kind of explained it to me that there's a pipe inside of a pipe. They have to have some special tool that cuts the inside pipe, and then they fill it with, I'm guessing, concrete or.
Is Al just, is that, did you budget for that?
No.
Anticipating that?
No.
So you really don't, and you don't know what the cost may be?
No, not off the top of my head.
How long do we have to do that once that's?
If our samples come back good, this will be the last year we have to do it. If we do have a bad sample, we'll have to continue.
Is there a fine for that?
No.
It just continues on?
Yeah, we just have to continue monitoring the water.
If it comes back good, how long do we have to plug the wells, I guess?
That I don't know. I don't know if KDHE is going to say you need to do it, or if we can do maybe 2 a year. I just don't know. I'd have to ask.
Better check on Steve.
What about those drainage issues that were in the tipping floor? Are those budgeted?
No, the engineering's been done on those, but if we budget for those, then we prevent ourselves from adjusting the walking floor trailers and redesigning the tipping floor. We either budget to adjust and fix the existing mechanism that we're using on that tipping floor, or we look at it for the cost of just redesigning it. I think Al can tell you what the tonnage is that we're pulling this year and the system we're using, but the system we're using allows us to take in hoppers and go collect them and deliver them from 10 tons. And most of those hopper systems, Al can give you the numbers at different locations. Most of those systems aren't effectively using 10 tons. We're wasting fuel to go gather the things as those numbers decline, as those systems start to lose tonnage.
So Sean, we didn't budget for that either way?
Budget either way, no.
So that's 2 things we didn't budget on so far. We don't even know how it could affect.
I have the engineering, but I do not have a direction to budget and don't anticipate changing that next year.
Okay, so you're not going to change.
Anticipate changing
Okay.
tipping floor until we look at both
Options.
engineering and the option and getting an estimate on what the floor change and the infrastructure change, the vehicles and everything. That's not going to be something that's going to be.
And we don't have a timeline on the wells either, so it may not be for next year. Is that correct or not correct?
The wells have to be done next year.
They have to be closed?
No.
If they're done. I mean, if they close them off, your water sample's good, you have to close them by next year.
They just said we have to close them.
Okay.
They didn't.
They didn't give you a timeline? Okay.
And the
Fair enough.
testing, you said the testing
last time for the water was?
I was thinking it was around 5,000. But to close a well, I'm guessing it's gonna be between 5 and 10.
Per well, right? Is that engineering cost too?
Yes.
Okay.
Did you figure it in your mattress thing on here, you said? Or no?
That's new, isn't it? Kind of new?
That's just brand new. And I'm still trying to determine whether we're gonna have to change our system for that because I need to make some phone calls on that and find out why it changed this year.
And just briefly, Al, give the public a little background on, we used to be able to take your mattresses
Yeah.
and
yeah.
everybody has them and they got to get rid of them. So they bring them to you and you used to be able to put them in the landfill. Is that correct?
Yeah, we.
And now you're being told by who?
KDHE.
KDHE that may no longer be the case.
He said that we cannot bury them anymore.
And then what will happen with those? Tons of mattresses.
We'll either have to haul them in an open top or we'll have to try to run them through our compactor,
Okay.
which,
Either way, it's a bad case.
yes. it is very
Compactor's
bad.
not sized for it.
Right.
And if we put an open top outside, obviously at certain times.
There's no weight and you
we're
can't.
hauling water
Yeah.
After they get wet.
Okay.
Do you don't foresee this drainage issue being a problem with the state or KDHE within the year that we need to deal with?
They've never,
I don't think it's gonna be an issue as far as inspections in the next 12 months.
Okay.
yeah, we should be good for about a year. So.
Yeah.
I would like to suggest that we raise our tipping fees. Just even if we raise it $1 a ton, we can kind of keep with everybody else, all the other counties, so we're not getting a lot of out-of-county stuff.
Won't we do that? We won't talk about that here, but why don't we work on that on Monday or the following Monday? Maybe make that suggestion, recommendation based on whatever background you got on that.
So I got a question on the city rentals. We went up about 7,000. What is that? What do you mean city rentals?
We pay the city's rent on the space for the compactors.
It was part of a deal many, many moons ago.
So we pay for their rentals and we give them the equipment?
Yep.
And they provide the person to run it. But yeah, those are old agreements we've had in place for.
They were here before I came, so they're real.
That's really old. Yeah. All right. Al, you got anything else? Yeah, are you buying any new equipment, big equipment next year? It's in the budget?
Not next year, but I'll be.
Are you going to come in and shock us with equipment that's about to break down and?
I hope not.
All right. All right.
Everything's running good.
Yeah, everything's going good so far.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
The last budget I had was road and bridge, and I did not recommend any adjustments for road and bridge, and just tried to consume the fuel and the rock expenses and things into what we could cut from the budget is at that point. But rock, fuel surcharges, increases, and fuel itself, I believe is going to consume anything that we could have taken out without adjusting services. I mean, we can take money out of this budget and adjust it, but in the end, that may mean we may not grade a road as much as we do now each time, or we may end up having to pull back from certain things, and I would rather not adjust it any more than, leaving it neutral.
I would really like to see us negotiate our ways with the rock quarries for sure. And that's huge for me. I guarantee you we're their biggest buyer and we don't negotiate anything. I would like to try to see the price per ton go down if we could.
That is something that I haven't had an opportunity, quite honestly, to work on, and we'll have to take over the next
Have we ever
several
got rock
months.
back out here at Mound City, or the
I'm sorry,
rock at Mound City? Is it quarry got rock again, or are we having to go some?
I would have to talk to the shop foremans. I don't,
Last time I talked to them, they're still getting from Centerville, he said.
Yeah.
So you haven't given us anything, Sean. You got one of the biggest budgets.
Well, I have not. I've tried to stay without asking for any more than necessary for increases, but I really haven't adjusted it to try to cut it any further.
I think we can work on some noxious weed stuff, but I don't have any other questions right now.
Now this, 4,480,500, that's the estimate for this year.
That's what we're estimating we'll spend this year.
So we're actually going up 100 and,
Well, the budget was 4.667, so the budget itself
budget never changed, but
pretty much level. It actually went down like $73, but we're estimating we're not gonna spend, what, a couple, almost 200,000 of what's in there this year.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
thanks, Sean. Who else do we have?
Anybody else haven't gone that wants to go? Anybody want to say anything? So we're going to crunch some numbers and see where we can make some adjustments.
Quick run through that. What I'm looking at without increasing the airport fuel, because I haven't calculated an amount on that, and not counting fire because it's separate, I'm showing about 146,000 change
Okay.
from what you talked about this morning.
So what's this gonna do to us 2 years from now if we,
I think the more you decrease now, you're gonna decrease carryovers, and then we're gonna be having this discussion again next year because we won't have as much to start with. We've already knocked our reserves down a lot to what we had before. Now, some of those reserves we had built up because we knew we were gonna spend it over here on the Justice Center.
Where are we at compared to what we thought we'd be versus what we was gonna spend there?
So are you talking about the 146,000 possibly coming off of the 600,000 that we were already revenue neutral on? Over from last week we talked, we were a little over 600 and some thousand over. Is that was with the 5%, I think?
Yeah, so we've maybe made up 25% of what we need
Okay.
discussed this morning.
that's not gonna be good for us next year.
Oh, no, I mean, the more you continue to decrease reserves and carryover, the more it's
Which I think is just as much important as this year.
gonna increase your levy the following year to make up for it.
So what happens if we do go over the revenue neutral? What's the pros and cons of doing that? What's the absolute worst that's gonna happen?
There's nothing bad going to happen.
You're just
you
not
haven't
gonna
given.
have as much money to work with.
Right.
If you don't go over it. And
That's just
that's,
gonna screw us in 3 years.
well, it probably is, and that's part of what we're looking at this year is we went under revenue neutral last year by $170,000, so we were already 170 in the hole for this year.
I don't look at that as bad, though. I mean, that's the taxpayers' money, and it's our job to do the best we can with our budget.
You'll be sitting on a beach, I'll be sitting here every Monday.
And you're literally raising taxes every single year. So I don't look at it the same way you do.
Well, it's a tough time for the county also, but every taxpayer out there is going through the same thing.
Yeah.
I mean, today, what's that, Kevin?
Mr. My question is, you know, a lot of people showed up for this, but a lot of people didn't.
Yeah.
There's a lot of budgets out there that didn't come in today and talk about what they could do. And it seems like our people worked pretty hard to do something.
You did.
And it seems a little bit unfair that a lot of those other budgets, who quite frankly they're Linn County entities, but they're not county. And what did they say?
Well, they're about to contribute. All right. No, I agree with you. And there's one that's an elected official just couldn't come in because medical reasons. But yeah, and they called.
I just look around the room and I see people who do care about where we're spending and our people's money.
Right.
And people are in here we're trying to cut to the bone.
Right.
Really lean anyway.
I appreciate that everybody that did come in today, you know, that's
Thank
something
you.
that.
Burton did message me and said he had a $3,000 increase in his jury trial with jury trials beginning again, but he said he could forego that if necessary.
He said he could give up 2,500 when I talked to him.
Budget on your utilities, which will be in justice as well. Because he's paying utilities right now.
So we're down to about 470, 76 or 480. That's what the projected 5% increase.
Somewhere in that range.
And then what budgets did we not go over today? Do you have a checklist?
Well, I don't really have a checklist, but I can look down the list and see what we talked about and what we didn't. So there's an EMS budget that I left at 12,000.
And that's mandated basically with a 5-year contract that we signed.
This is not ambulance.
This is EMS.
Training.
We didn't hold him to that, did we? That's Randy, right?
This is one that if we have like firefighters or someone that want to take an EMT class, we use that to reimburse them.
But Randy should have covered that, right?
He's never messed with, or fire's never messed with that one.
So we've used 2,000 or estimated 2,000 and we're budgeting 12.
Yeah, last year we actually spent 3,600, so we had a couple of people that went through some classes.
Okay.
This year I left 2,000 in an estimate. We hadn't spent any of that yet, but that's in case somebody did this year. The 12 is the same amount we've been budgeting for years.
Okay.
It's just there in case we need it. We did not talk about the courthouse budget. I have that one going at 392 for next year. And if you look at the budgeted amount, that is basically level. It was an increase of $187. However, this year we're going to go over that by quite a bit. A lot of that is due to things with new building and some of the expenses we've taken out of there. So I don't really see anything in that one that's going to change. Juvenile detention or juvenile intakes, the way it's listed in there, that's an estimate we get from the juvenile regional facility. I don't remember the exact name on it, but they base that on some formula they have of all the counties that are members, and that's what they sent us that our share was this year.
Kevin sent us an email here a while back about that actually, and him and I had talked. Kevin, do you want to share about that a little bit?
Yeah.
Which I think we can maybe save some money there.
So Linn County's paying a stipend essentially to have the ability to utilize the juvenile center in Girard. And I think that stipend goes up this year to 65,000.
57 or
50, I don't remember.
58.
Actually, 58.5 is what we've got in the estimate I got from.
For 2023?
Yeah.
And that was up from 53?
We paid 56 this year and last year. It wasn't a lot of change.
Yeah, I remember I accidentally got the bill inadvertently. It was sent to my office and I was astounded by that. I think it's a huge waste of money. We need a place to go. We need a place to contract with. But when we start talking about juvenile placement in a detention facility, I think last year we utilized that facility for less than 10 nights. So we're paying a huge chunk of money. We're looking at, $5,800 a night for placement of juveniles. I really think the county needs to reach out. There's other juvenile detention facilities that we could utilize and we could contract with. I don't house juveniles. I can't house juveniles. I can't be involved. My people can't be involved in that. That's just how it works. But there are other places that I believe that we could contract with. I know there's a brand new juvenile center in KCK. When we start looking at traveling distance, it's about the same as it is down there. It's ran actually under the unified government in Kansas City. I had talks with Wyandotte County about housing prisoners in our facility. They asked me about juveniles because their unified government also does that. I think I can't really get involved because I don't house juveniles. I don't hold them. We only transport them. But I would think that is a budget that must be looked at.
How do we go out to find out about this? I mean, as far as
Are we in contract with them right now?
I don't know what our agreement is with them.
Kevin, the new facilities you're talking about, are they on like the uses? You know, like if we use it, we have to pay for it, not reserve? Because right here now, we're pretty much reserved.
Right. I think we'd probably have to pay them essentially a stipend to, you know, it's kind of like you're going out and retaining an attorney. Let's just say it that way. You're retaining a facility. We're retaining this facility at a very high rate. And I think it's ridiculous.
Gary, you have any background on it
No,
at all?
it's always, it's always been in place. Again, it was there when I came here.
You know who we reach out to check into this, Kevin?
I would think, I don't know. I don't know who it falls under. That's the problem with this is,
JD, but I don't know, if there's one in KC, I know Miami County, they use Franklin, she just said they're closing down a lot of JD facilities.
they are. And that's why the prices are going up so much on this. And with them building a new one up north, I think it would behoove the county to reach out because that's a chunk of money.
That's something you guys can reach out for. Who did, I mean, just,
Yeah, we can check with Judge Mars, and see who.
It would be good to see if,
Right, but at the tune now of $58,000 and where the county's at financially, I mean, it's crazy. That's what I reached out months ago to the commission with ideas for that because when I got that bill, I just opened it. I didn't realize it wasn't mine. And I took it to David and I was like,
You
oh
ran
my
it to
God,
David.
what are we doing here, you know?
Right.
Because I think there's a better way to do that. I think there's a cheaper way to do that. And I think we've paid them oodles of money over the last several years, and it's just going up yearly, as everything else is.
we probably ought to reach out and see what kind of a contract or agreement exists between us and them.
Probably from like 1950.
I don't have any idea. Do you?
Do not know.
Okay, so
It predates me being here too.
Yeah.
I don't know.
well, maybe that's something we need to check into.
I will tell you, looking at the budget for that line over the last 10 years or so, in 2018, it was 74,930. So it has come down 74,930 about 4 or 5 years ago. So it has come down, but
So do you guys sign that contract? I mean, that's.
I've never seen a contract. I get a notice once a year from them of these are your fees for the next year.
So does like community corrections take care of that? Like signing the contract and finding the.
I've never seen a contract.
Type thing? I don't know. All on that.
thank you. Sounds like a lot of questions there.
Thanks.
So just looking on down the list from there, emergency management, Randy didn't talk about when he was in here. That one did decrease. It's down 6,000 from what this year's budget was. Counselor budget I decreased because we thought Gary wasn't gonna have as much extra time once this facility's done. Contingency, I dropped 400,000 out of this year, and windfall, I dropped 1.5 million out of already.
What are those two going to do to us in the long run?
So that's basically our reserve funds. Contingency, we do use some money out of that every year. We use it for tax sales. There are a few odds and ends we spend out of there, but knock that back down some. The windfall we had built up to 3 million after we got the pipeline coming through, and we planned on using that 3 for this facility, which we have done or are doing. So I knocked it back down to half that much to keep in reserve
So
after
did that
this year.
take all that money that for each township, was that taken out of that? Or did we figure that into the budget?
Township,
The
what,
infrastructure grant?
infrastructure grant was out of contingency, and it is not in here when I took that out. Yeah, I mean, before I ever put it together, it was already out. Looking at the rest of the general, we did not talk about the Historical Society. That one's at 40,000. It's been there for 10 plus years at that level. I do remember when it was like 28 years and years ago, but on this comparison sheet, I have 2013 is the earliest date I'm showing on here, and it was at 40,000 then.
Why does the park have such a huge increase from 21 to 2023?
So park went up 25,500 in budget. In actual expenses, it's showing, going up around that amount.
We go back from 2021, it was 258, and it's to 354.
That's,
In compliance, maybe? I don't know. Sean, do you know anything about that?
That would be Sean's area.
The park jumped from 258 in 2021 to
354 this year.
I mean, do you just have an idea of why it would do that? Would it just because we weren't in compliance before? I mean, pretty much not in compliance, and we did a lot of changing within the park in 2001 or
The park?
or 2021.
Compliance?
Compliance and what?
Not compliance. We did a lot of different stuff. We restructured everything. We moved all the people and.
In 2001,
21.
as best I can remember, I think you're going to be looking at the pump that we pulled several times. We also put money into the cabins and reskinned and sided those. I can't think of any other large changes in that time frame, but a lot of it was aging infrastructure, I think.
I got a problem with it spending that much money in a place we don't even have a contract. Myself. What do you think?
Yeah, I'd love to have a contract.
We can't even get anybody to talk to us.
Build a business plan around the park and try to generate more funds, but I do think we're very limited there. Have you heard anything, Jessica?
I've been the one in contact with them, and I've tried to reach out, but no, I haven't heard anything other than we're working under an agreement to extend the existing contract until it's done. And I've not heard anything since it went to legal, which was months ago.
Which, I think we've talked about it for over a year though, but the rental house that's there, did you budget any funds in there to do anything to it?
No, we're still looking at a tenant issue, and without a contract, we can't even look at any grant opportunities or anything obviously there's a little money in maintenance to do simple repairs, but as far as going back through that and doing the repairs that are going to be necessary, no, I didn't for this next year.
What rights do we have there, Gary, with something that we don't even have a contract on?
Well, we've got a contract. We did a temporary contract that said the old lease would be in place until
The new lease starts.
we got a new lease in place. So we're under a contract. It's just not what the final one's going to be, probably.
It's just an extension, basically.
Yeah, it's
Day by day, year to year.
Yeah.
it's just an open-ended extension.
Till they come out and say we sold the whole damn thing.
Exactly.
It's an open-ended extension, and because everybody signed it, they couldn't just come cut us off. They'd have to give us the proper notices under the original contract.
What was that? Does anybody know?
I don't remember, but I think it's like a year or 18 months or something.
We did have a copy of it. We had it out here
I've got one.
a couple years ago.
It's been a while since I've read it.
Yeah. David, have you got any more budgets right now did you go over all your stuff?
The SRO, does that put back into the SRO
I've
funds?
got the.
He's got that figured back in. So what's your number now with the 5%?
Well, I haven't plugged these in the budget, but if we were because we were around 200 off on revenue neutral.
4.
And then with cost of living. So this.
Hey, let's just take a 10-minute break and let David catch up and then resume.
I'll make a motion that we take a 10-minute recess.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
It's yeah.
Hey, I got a question for you. I got a question for you guys. Just because I
Hey, you have a question on
Is that
because I'm like, with all anything that happened, broken, so needed,
Yeah, we'll take that. I bet when something's gone wrong over there.
we're kind of more concerned with the new building as far as,
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anything, that extra equipment still it's still, I mean, I know that's, but building maintenance, I mean, like when it's flooded over there, and we still have.
How many computers did you increase? I mean, as far as what? I just wondered.
Judge's room.
No, you got a lot more.
Secretary, another judge, another secretary to fill. Computers in there,
And they're not bought yet. I mean,
well, I think so. I still got this person, I think we got some budgeted, but didn't come out right. But we're still not sure. We have a law library.
Yeah, still the person.
Gonna be set up with 2 computers.
it's set up so with computers already, right? Yeah.
That area just ran for one. I know how to that. The other already budgeted public was that it might be by that I haven't purchased yet. An extra one, but it's just, I don't know what my CS budget for them. They each have, I know, just little things that like my backwards. They worry for my boxes, stuff in there. My storage.
Yeah.
Buy the whole back, but that's just a little thing.
we are, and the judge Harper. Some IT reimbursement and stuff, you have to buy your equipment so we could work. But, so we might have some.
Yeah, it's still kind of in there, stuff left over, but it's just not over.
Just, I just.
Not really think about
We
it.
might be a lot better. I mean,
I'd like to check in with that juvenile blankets.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Well, my big son, I start poking too much into someone else. Yeah.
That's $5,800 a night. That's kind of expensive motel room.
In Miami County, we have like maybe 7 juveniles.
We don't have very much, so, like he said, maybe 10 a year.
That's pretty expensive care.
Well, 10 nights. He said 10 nights.
Yeah, I don't think we have very many.
Yeah, I'll check on that. I'll let you know.
Will you let us know? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Plan on the road, Lloyd? Plan on the road?
No.
And you have to take a longer break. You gotta go get the pictures.
And let me show you.
No, you got to. I mean, we all do.
But he doesn't.
Well, sure, Joe.
I'm.
Could be too. No, I want you to stand there right now. That big. I'm gonna have it signed.
So,
Their photographer didn't show us.
I didn't, I'll be darned.
Get a photographer here for what we
anything
do.
I don't care, whatever everybody wants to do. You don't have to take my picture if you don't want to. Keep the rats away.
How about you? About 3 years I'll be with it. You understand that, Dan?
Yeah, yeah, I think so.
The photographer didn't show up, so you don't have to go get the wig.
Oh, gee. Thank goodness. You're gonna have Barb sitting.
And had to bring 3 cameras. Every time I took. Danny, he dressed for the pictures.
Hands today.
But you headed to the lake or what?
I wish.
Don't tell me you gotta work today.
After a gel deal.
So, 10 minutes.
Still got a couple of minutes.
Jim, how does that work with it? You're saying 18 million of its corporation increase. Okay, okay.
And we don't know year-to-year utilities, corporations, we don't know. But this year, that's how much went up this year.
And residential went up 17, personal property.
Yeah.
And
Our time-
utilities, 60-some% of our county.
Is that right?
I didn't hear the first part of that. What?
The utility is 60% of our valuation.
66.15. So, yeah, basically 2/3 of our value is from state assessed utilities.
Personal property went up almost the same, on 1/3 of it is on valuation.
Are we back in session?
Yeah, times.
Jan, do you want to step up and kind of explain the sheet you got to us, please?
Well, I just wanted to show you how the levies have went and how the valuation has gone in the last 5 years. Revenue neutral is basically, if you go up, you need to explain to your people why your taxes are going to increase. Well, our taxes aren't really increasing. Our levy would go down, but they're increasing from the previous year, so that's why we have to explain it. But our levy would still go down 4.39 if we don't do the, before any of this happened. Our levy would be 44.278. Previous year, it was 47.848. That's what it would be without the cost of living. If you did the cost of living before any of this happened, your levy would go down 3.57. If we just, revenue neutral just means we have to send everyone a letter that this is now what your taxes are going to be for the county. This year, the state will pay for that letter.
Mhm.
The next year, they will, or we
Next
don't
year
know.
they say they will, but it's not budgeted.
So if we're going to go over revenue neutral, this year, the state's going to reimburse us, and that's about a 15,000, maybe more. I'm not sure, David's
The cost of postage, envelopes, paper.
time.
Yeah, I'm not sure that they're gonna give us anything on time. I don't think they are, but we're still
Just the
probably
cost.
looking in the 15 range on,
It's going to take you a good 3 days to stuff them,
yeah.
That's if you go over is what you're,
if we have to send a letter, yes.
Now, we are sending letters already for
Already.
a big part of the county because of other entities going over.
right.
Prairie View's already told me they're going over. Several cities and library districts are, so the letters are gonna go out.
Anybody saying they're not?
Oh, there's some.
And going over revenue neutral doesn't mean the levy's going to increase, correct, David?
Right, we're still looking at a decrease in levy of 3.5 mils. It's just to be revenue neutral, you've got to decrease.
Because of the evaluation going up.
Right.
Right.
And I don't look,
Both of that valuation increase is in the utilities, not.
This year,
This year it's about
it was about half and half, but there's still way more value in utilities than there is locally assessed. At the moment, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 other entities that have notified me they're going over revenue neutral. I've already heard, that's the official notice. I've heard from 2 or 3 others that are planning on it, but I don't have their notices yet.
but just like us, revenue neutral still could mean their value, their levy is going to go down.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't mean that we're increasing taxes because of revenue neutral. It means that our levy's still going to go down. But
Levy may go down, but with your valuation go up, your taxes be more money.
True.
That's what I'm saying.
You could, and it depends, that's an individual
Right. I understand.
person to person on how your value did.
You want nice things, you pay for it.
that's right.
What's that?
You want nice things, you got to pay for them.
Yeah.
Well, I do think it matters, and so that I think that's my goal anyway. If we don't get there, then we don't get there, but my goal is to get to revenue neutral. So either we do it or we don't do it together. but it's not a threat. I mean, it's just, that's what we should be doing. That's what the state asks us to do. And that's the money that I understand that the taxpayers will eventually get out. And if the cities don't want to do it and the school districts already don't want to do it, then it's our goal to do our very best to.
The schools don't seem to want to, and that's one of the biggest things in the county.
And it's easy. I look at it this way, you know, if I get $100,000 in every year and that was my income, but whatever I don't use, I could just give back. How often would I give back? You know? So if I only had 70,000, I had to use all that every year. That's a different story. I pick and pinch.
And I appreciate that fact, but you know, there's a lot of things, there is a lot of people, and the mindset is if we don't use it, we lose it. And that's human nature is what I'm saying is, and I think we got to get away from it myself. You know, and that's where I'm at. I realize that county employees, everybody likes raises, and I understand that because that's what you're ultimately doing is working for wages. But you know, everybody that's paying these too out there is in the same boat as we are. And that's what I think we all got to suck our belt loop up a little bit in tough times. And I think we're in a tough time now. I mean, that's where I feel about it, you know, and if in good times we can all share it, in bad times, I think we all need to share too.
So I looked at it like, I think I've got it right from when we started this, that with the 5% dropping the 285 out of it for the infrastructure, we were down to 646, and then we dropped another whatever amount today.
I'm showing we're still roughly 400,000 short.
Right. Right. So we were $1 million over the revenue neutral start out with in the very beginning when you started working on this, and we've got it down to that. So, and that's what are you at 400,000?
Until I plug it in
Yeah.
the deal, I don't know exactly. A quick calculation I did was 393,000.
Okay.
And that's with a 5%.
That's with the cost of living at 5%. So that is roughly 1.4 mils maybe.
And I was talking to Sean too, you know, not to beat up. He didn't think he was, a lot of his is projection of what it could do and could cost. And no take any credit away, but I think there's got to be some give into that noxious weed and some of the others. So, I mean, we haven't even worked at that. So, I mean, if we worked at, you know, 25 to 50,000 off of all of his budgets total, we'd be down to, because I want to see you get the raise. And if you're at $343,000 roughly, 345, we'll say, with another $50,000 in there.
That's getting it down close to 1 mil over revenue neutral.
So what left is there to cut so we can get to revenue neutral? That's my goal. I don't know if it's your goal. But that's my goal.
Well, to me, 5% pay increase right now is pretty high.
Okay.
And I'm not saying that I wouldn't like to give it to all of you, but I'm just saying, in the way things are right now, I think.
I'm for that if we can. I am for that if we can get to somewhere close.
The only other thing I see to get that kind of money would be reducing our reserves.
Or using our funds.
But we've already got that in there.
Got 300 in there.
You could, in theory. We figure out you're still about 600 sitting down there.
And that's what already minus the 300 that you took out.
Right.
We still have 600 left with the 300 out.
Well, we're down to about 400 after today's changes we talked about.
No, ARPA money.
Oh, ARPA. Yeah, I know we do have a request in for like 200,000 that we haven't accounted for yet either.
But we haven't said yes or no on that.
No, we haven't.
With like the noxious weed, you know, the program has not ran well in noxious weed. I don't see how we could, I mean, I know we're spending more money there, but we're also running pretty efficiently now. We haven't in 5 years, and it's been a nightmare for all of us involved.
Well, they've got good equipment and they've got 2 employees and I think he figured, you know, what he thought he could use. I didn't mean take 50,000 out of that, but I'm talking about, he's got one of the biggest budgets there is, counting all the budgets put together. I'm sure that if he worked hard, he could come up with another 50,000 out of it.
My biggest deal is long-term here. Because I feel like that we're in this position because we've kind of just rolled with life for the last how many ever years, and now we're, really having to deal with it. We're trying to make
Second year. It's the second year we ever had to deal with it.
I'm just talking other issues within the county, trying to build everything up, trying to get our equipment going. I just think that, I think the employees need the 5%. That's my opinion, with the way the world is. I mean, the price of employees it's not going to go down. I mean, it's only going to go up next year, and we're going to be even further in the hole doing the same thing next year, with just different people sitting here probably. So, I mean,
Yeah, step up there and talk if you want to. I don't have a problem with you guys.
No.
Got an idea, we're willing to listen.
Well, I don't have an idea. I just have a question.
You got your checkbook?
I do, but I couldn't even buy an ice cream cone out of my checkbook. I have to get my wife's. I guess what I'm wondering is with the increase in the benefits package, if you give a 5% increase of cost of living, what's the actual increase in employee cost?
I've made this statement today, and there's multiple times throughout my career with a pretty major oil company that I'd get a raise. They'd turn around and they'd bump my benefits up, and I might walk away with less money than I had before.
I will say this though, whether we give a 5% or no, they deserve it. I believe they deserve it because what we normally do here is train people to work up north. We get them all trained up, and they're at that $17, $18 an hour mark, and boom, they're up there and they got a big one. And you're looking at a guy right there behind you that just put all the electrical, all the IT stuff in the world that if he could walk away here with, he's got dollar signs all over him if he wanted to. And to give the employees a 5% raise, and I know the benefits are a huge issue, are a huge benefit here. I still don't think for Linn County that's a bad thing at all. But how do we get there? That's what I want to do. How do we get there and be able to do that? So I know what you're saying, but they're working for not even close to what you can get in just one county up. And you go one more county up and over the other county.
But you go to the county north of us here, and the sheriff's department's got 45 people, or 45 prisoners in their jail.
Yeah.
He can't hire prisoners.
Yeah. But we got ours so far.
That's happened in the county.
Yeah.
north of us.
Yeah.
So in a 96 bed jail, they got 45 prisoners.
What's that?
I think that lays on who runs your facilities, and I think
It's an important part.
He does a great job, and he takes very good care of his employees and makes them feel important. And I think that's just as much. Pay is important, but being entitled is important. How much? If we go over revenue neutral, what are we talking? Taxes are going to go up. Do we know? How do we determine that?
So, okay. It still comes down to an individual basis on taxes. Right now, what I'm showing is we still need about 393,000 over I've got in here. The tax levy overall. So what I've got plugged in the system at the moment, we're at 43.223 mils. Revenue neutral is 42.581. Right now, we're at $13,833 in tax money. This year, we were at $13,627. And we're looking at another close to 400,000 on top of that to get us to fund everything we have in there. It'll put us at about 14.2. That's about 600,000 more in tax dollars this year or next year than this year.
So it's roughly $14 million budget.
Take that $600,000 in additional revenue above revenue neutral and 66% of it is paid by the utilities.
Mm-hmm.
And so what's 34% of that?
205,000.
So 205,000 is paid by everything else.
That's spread out over the whole county.
So we're talking, I mean, there's no way to figure out an average, but let's say, you know, 15, 20 bucks per.
But then you take that, then you take the school districts and everybody else pile up on top of it too.
If you divided it evenly by the number of real estate parcels we have in the county, and it would not work that way because a lot of those are lakes, that's about $10 per parcel of real estate. Now, we know that those lake development parcels are a little tiny bit of the tax, but they're a big number. So yeah, it would be way more than that on your house or something.
So whatever we do, the school districts do, I mean, they're roughly half, or they're actually more.
The cities.
Yeah, but the school districts are actually bigger percentage than us, right? And then you have the cities and everybody else on top of that.
All right.
But we have no control over what any of
I
them do.
understand that.
So if we ask Sean to take 50,000 out of all of his budgets put together, leaving us at about 345, that's what I'd like to see us try to come up with in order to get the 5% and stay revenue neutral. So how can we do that?
So where are you going to get to revenue neutral with it?
Yeah, where are we going to?
The only thing that's left is reducing our reserves.
Okay.
Which, yes, we can do, but then what's that do to us down the road? And you start looking long-term if we don't have any money set back to come
Then it's
up.
then it's either that or lower the 5%.
Or go over revenue neutral.
Or, yeah, but that's not my option. I don't know. Danny said he might consider that, but.
What if we take more money out of the ARPA for the lump sum type payment to the?
And you and I are gonna be having the same meeting next year.
You're gonna have a meeting every year about
You
it.
got a meeting every year for this. That's just part of this seat.
But I think you're that much farther behind another year if you do that, because it's just a Band-Aid fix for now. And next year, when you come up with estimates, you're going to be that much farther in the hole because you're not going to have that to draw on again.
Well, hopefully, to me, if this jail continues and turns around, it could, if we can get to the $1 million, we're kicking a can down the road, is what I'm saying. But my hope is this deal here is a revenue maker.
I hope so too. And a year from now, we'll have a whole lot better idea about that.
That's what I'm saying. And then,
But at this point, who knows?
That's putting a lot in the jail.
So what's,
we put a lot of money in the jail's hands too.
what's each point, that percentage point, up to 5% for the employees? 4% is what?
Find another note here on how much it was. So we're looking at roughly $67,000 per percent.
That's it?
Because what I had calculated was 335, 750 at 5%.
So that puts us around 277. So if you did, I'm just saying, if you was at 4% and at 277, 100% more or 100,000 more for ARPA funds, and come up with $177,000 in reserves, you'd be revenue neutral basically.
You could probably get there that way, but what have you really accomplished by doing that?
Yeah.
Besides postponing our issues for another year.
I'm trying to grow the county. I'm not trying to.
I see it as we need to buckle down some instead of, I mean, they worked hard today. They came in and we had $170,000 right off the bat. And that's not even asking everybody. And that's without Sean, who has a very big budget of even giving anything back. So I think those are more realistic budgets instead of just rolling over to the following year, some of their money that they have left over. So that's where I'm at. Either come up with the money with ARPA, some of ARPA and some reserve, and reduce from 5 to 4, or you keep it at 5 if you can find the money. But my goal is revenue neutral, and that's my suggestion. So that's where I stand on it.
So here's a question to go with that. And I've known that's where you were for a long time.
Yeah, I know. I'm being stubborn. I know.
You've been vocal about that's what you want to do. How long, and you're not going to be in office, but you're still a resident of this county after you're out.
Right.
How long do you really think we can continue to be revenue neutral?
I think we can every year if we work hard at it.
Do you think we can grow the county doing that though?
Huh?
You think we can grow the county, make it people want to come here?
The only way you can be revenue neutral every year is to begin to cut services. I mean, you got to, I mean, just think about your own life. If you never get any increase in income, same income year after year, pretty soon you got to cut things out.
But my goal is, if you talk about that, my goal is this judicial system we got here, if we can get some revenue coming in from that, then maybe we don't have to be revenue neutral, Gary. We may be able to take half of it and not continue revenue neutral, but not hit the taxes every year, because we're going to have some income coming in. I mean, I think, I'll put it this way, my personal checkbook, if things are tight, we cut back. And I think it's pretty tight right now. You know, where would we be if we didn't take that infrastructure grant out and a few things like that? That we're 300 and some thousand more over.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we took that back, and we don't have the 72,000 for the resource officers, you know, and we're sitting there, we took that out of there, and we're still over what we're over. You know, I mean, we have cut back some, and we're still. Pardon me?
But our budget is down.
I understand that. It is down, but the evaluations are up, and it's creating more money. And if the market goes back the other way, and you and I both lived through that too, Janet, and we've seen that happen too, and it was a crunch.
I just don't see how we can cut funds every year and then try to grow our county and make it justifiable to pay the taxes we do with nothing to justify it on. Like there's nothing here. I don't know. If we don't spend any money in the county, how are we going to get people here? I'm not talking about growing the government. I'm talking about making it justifiable to come here, which we don't. We don't have any development plans in our industrial parks right now. I mean, we have it in place to, bids and stuff, but we don't have it. We have nothing. We have no development plans here. I mean, I know you guys are older school and huh? I think it all leads into the same issue. I mean, a lot of people don't come to Linn County because there's nothing here.
We probably, David can attest to this, we're probably one of the two counties dragging the majority of our tax money from utilities.
Exactly. What happens when it's gone?
That's
what we're not right now. We don't have no plan of bringing any other businesses in here. We're just trying to stay underneath this revenue neutral deal. And I mean, I think that should be our.
What do you think happens if that power plant shuts down?
We're screwed. That's what I'm saying. We're screwed. I think that we should be trying to develop our industrial parks, bringing in big old businesses, and you got to spend money to make money. You got to spend money to get people here. You're 100% right. I think we're screwed when we lose the power plant. Next one behind it will be the pipeline. There's 66% of our income. So we're gonna turn to Casey's, cause it's, I mean, then how many business we're gonna lose the industrial park in Lacey because they run off the power plant. Then we turn to whatever the concrete plant is, I guess. Then I think if we just keep cutting services, it makes our department heads, cutting budgets, it makes our department heads' jobs way harder, which is already hard enough to keep people here, and a lot of them are already on the verge of retiring. So how are we gonna get more people here? Which, that's another whole issue, isn't it, David?
That's the issue wherever you go today as far as hiring people. I think at any place I've been to.
No, I can't find.
It's tough to hire people right now.
That's why I'm wearing short sleeves. I've been wearing pants working all week. I've been just comfortable. But
Thanks, Gary.
yep,
We'll see you, Gary.
good luck.
Oh, I gotta ask him something. Why don't we take a little break and then come back and hit this again?
Motion to take a 5-minute recess.
Second.
Was moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
For how long?
5.
25.
So everybody that's in this room are only old enough to remember the only perspective on economy that's similar to this, which was 1980, 79, 80. Nobody else is old enough to be back in the 30s.
I know you're being grumpy.
Real pain.
I'm being grumpy.
Didn't
Tell me
come until about 3 years.
Reduce our reserves.
That's when they're real.
In a position to weather that, which is strong enough now. Danny's
Be
wrong.
looking at,
You'll be screwed
And you take
in.
the 50,000 out of 50,000 more off of Sean.
He
can
doesn't
do it.
understand that.
It'll be 2 or 3 years. It always is. 2 or 3 years down the road of what decision you make, it seems like. Financially.
right here is where your reserves are.
What do you think, Janet?
2 million in contingency.
I don't
No.
know. 5%.
Pardon me?
So,
So if you look at where we've been in those funds over the years, this is still more than we used to carry in.
I'm not denying that.
So, yeah, some people's taxes are gonna go up.
See,
Mine's gonna go
10
up.
years ago, we only had 300,000 in contingency.
I know.
You know, and we're
Now,
gonna
before
do
that,
it
it was higher because we used a bunch of it, but we built it back up. Windfall used to be
Just,
7 or 8,000. It had gotten down to there. We built it up.
I just.
So we can come down there. And that does
I wouldn't
solve
even pay attention to it.
this year's
So,
problem.
yes, letter.
but what if we added another 100?
This year, when we don't have to pay.
That help a little bit, or is it?
To me, it's holding accountability to the people making decisions is what I think. There is school districts out here and different things that just keep going.
So what
I know.
does it really matter?
And we have,
What's your opinion?
To me, it doesn't.
it does to an extent because I'm paying taxes in 2 school districts.
So,
This is some like
You know, there's 2 school districts and there's one of them I don't even get to vote in.
in the state. So there's Lynn County.
I pay taxes up there. I don't even get to vote what they do.
That takes.
How would you like that figure?
We are like 7th.
That's what I get at. I mean, we need to hold ourselves accountable a little bit.
Tax rates.
I mean, I do.
Now, we have that because we have.
Pardon me?
That's why.
we have because of what?
Because we have a power plant. But we are nowhere near most counties are taxing. I mean, coffee is lower than us. They've got the nuclear plant. You look at Bourbon, Their average levy's 176 or 113. So the average citizen in Bourbon County is paying 60 mills in taxes more than the average in Lynn County.
But is there, I wonder if their budget's,
Johnson County is about 4 mills higher than us.
But you know, it's pretty easy.
Where's Miami? Miami is about 11 mills higher than we are. Now, a house in Miami County and the same house in Lynn County, I'm guessing it's worth more there too.
yeah, way more.
So if your $200,000 house in Lynn County is worth $250 in Miami, and you pay another 11 mils of taxes, your rates are way higher there. I mean, I don't think that's something people get, is how low our rate is compared to this.
Well, they don't, because the city taxes and everything.
But the cities are calculating in this. This is the average of every entity in the county that taxes. It comes out to that average.
Counties. And I know it's all over control.
So, which would you rather have? If it was you, 5% contingency in ARPA, or 4% and take it out of contingency? You want 5%, right? And I'll, Daniel, it doesn't make a bad idea. You guys are perfectly right. No, but I just don't see it the way you guys see it. And
They got all the numbers.
I don't know why it doesn't.
We're talking about resources. And they should.
But I mean, we trimmed a fair amount here today. Found some money, and I've still got some, I've got some other income to put in. Yes, Sean could probably found 2,000 in his budget. And I think we're making an effort to turn them down closer to I just don't see what you get more. Just dip in the reserve. I would rather take it out of the reserves instead of more ARPA. Because I think the ARPA is just.
See, that's, yeah, okay. So you think it's better?
Because, you know, I'm talking about looking for another $400,000, and I don't think it's quite that much by the time I get everything in.
Yeah, 393.
Well, I mean,
Roughly.
393 is what I'm pointing. So I'm just rounding.
So you take 50 more off of that, you have 350.
So 340, 350. I can take that out of winter and still leave over in fall. And it gets our employees a decent raise. It funds our budgets. We're still funding 300,000 of that with ARPA that we've already got in there, so that's a one-time funding thing.
I know, I'm sorry, we just agree on this, but it's just, I know.
My hope would be our income over here is better. And if it is that is.
Okay.
But I don't want to put that income in this year, thinking we're going to get it and not get it. That's when Kevin and I talked. He really thought next year, even without a federal contract, would be closer to 800, 900,000. But we agreed that 500 was a certain estimate and be safe. If we had bumped that up to 800 for next year, we'd already be there. And we may get it, but we may not. So. But I do think that's a fact that most people don't realize is how low our rates are compared to
Is it signed or something?
I have to count them up. We're in that range. We're in the lowest 10 in the state. And we had fallen out of that a few years ago. We were up to about 15 and we worked our way back there. So we've been lowering rates here more than most counties have. Oh, yeah.
Here, I sit in your chair and now you have much good.
Is it raining outside?
It started to sprinkle. I had to put the boot or something back in the truck.
Well, we're back. What now?
So talking to David, and I am with the 5% increase in COLA because I don't want to continue to train people to leave and go. And I think maybe that's my way of trying to keep people. Plus, we do have good benefits here for the county. And with the 50,000 out of, working with 50,000 out of Sean's, all of his budgets together. And talking to David, it looks like he would rather see just come out of reserves, out of windfall. Is that right?
I'd rather see that than more.
393 or 394,000 or 345,000 out of windfall would be better than taking half and half or however you wanted to do it out of ARPA funds. So I would vote on Monday for that, or for staying revenue neutral at that point, using that windfall money, and that would be the reason I would vote yes on the budget. Otherwise, I'm not there. So 5% increase is what I'm proposing, agreeing with, and the windfall of taking the remaining balance out of windfall, which would still leave you about $1 million in windfall.
Right.
And not worry about the ARPA fund, just keep that where it's at, besides the money you've already taken out of that. So
I'm not against the raises, but I think 5% is too much. I don't, with what the taxpayers in Linn County would have to stand, I think 5% raise is too much money.
Okay. But getting, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, but I'd rather see a lump sum because percent raise, that just amplifies it down the road. Just want to.
Okay. Danny, where you at?
5% is only like $18 every 2 weeks.
It's 67,000 or something like that per percent.
Right, but it's only, I think when we did the math, it was $18 per paycheck per person, which is, it's been on Red Bull today.
That's probably true.
Yeah, and obviously that's going to vary depending on the person's salary.
Sure.
But let's say you have a $40,000 a year employee. 5% on that is $2,000 for the year. We've got 26 pay periods in a year. The gross is $77 a pay period. Take that time, it's about 2/3. Probably take home about $50 a paycheck more on a 40,000 employee.
Yeah.
Now we have employees under that, we have them over that, but.
So if we can come to a compromise on, my goal is revenue neutral. My goal is to get them their 5% raise. That's the solution I see for it. Take 50,000 out of, ask Sean to figure out 50,000 out of all of his budgets together, which he wasn't able to take anything out today, he didn't think, and take the rest out of windfall, still leaving $1 million in windfall, staying revenue neutral, and we'll right now, and David made a great point that out of the 105 counties there is, we're already in the top 10 lowest tax-wise, right? Is that right?
Yeah, our average county levy is in the lowest 10 in the state.
Which is great, and I don't want to see it go up.
Where are we at in evaluation? I wonder what about, as far as.
For third, maybe? I don't know.
Maybe in the top.
Nowhere near top 10, but we're probably in the upper third, I would guess. I don't have those numbers in front of me. But.
And that's with all the cities, all the taxing entities included.
That's every taxing entity in the county. You take all of their.
And that's amazing.
They average them together, and we're in the top 10.
So
the lowest 10 in levy.
I can say that, I want to be able to say that we did everything we could to save the county and the taxpayers' money the best we could. We stayed by, I call state regulation, staying revenue neutral, and getting the 5% increase. That's my proposal for that for Monday, if we could do that.
But you take some of the counties, it's a lower evaluation, their mill levy's got to go way up in order to come up with any amount of money, right? I mean.
Well, yeah.
That's, and they not end up with very much money, but their mill levy
Right.
would be triple of what ours is.
Right.
To get very little money.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, we were picking out a few counties around here. Rick was over here looking at this with me. Our average county levy this year is 113 mills. So that's cities, schools, everything together. It averages out to that. Bourbon County's is 176 mills.
What's Garnett?
Anderson County's 155.
And we're 114?
113. Coffee is 91. They've got the
nuclear plant.
And so their value is what, at least twice ours, I think.
Well, their value, they're probably utilities is up in the 80s, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, upper 80s, I believe, in their county.
But, their total value for the county is probably twice our total value. So even if you looked at it that way, they're probably still taxing at 91 more tax dollars than we are at 113. Miami is at 122 for an average levy. Go on up to Johnson County, they're at 117. So they're about 6 mills higher on their average. That was the other thing we were talking about. A house in Johnson County is probably worth more than the same house in Linn County market price. So not only is your house worth more there, but the levy's higher too. So it's not like we've ignored trying to keep taxes down over the years. A few years ago, we had gotten out of that best 10 and we were up to about 15th lowest in the state, but we've worked back down now over the last 4 or 5 years.
I mean, I get that.
Yeah, that's how they figure the motor vehicle taxes is off that average levy.
Did we fix the air? Did
all
you?
Personal property or just the motor vehicle?
Anything in motor vehicle,
That's a
they
big,
pay.
so that'd be a personal property. And
Did we adjust anything on the airport?
I'm going to go back and add some income there. I didn't adjust anything on the expenses. But with the amount of fuel purchase she was talking about, I need to bump the income up from selling more.
Has anybody got any other proposals? Where are you at, Danny?
I don't know. Next year and the year after is where I'm at. I mean, I'm trying to look down the road and look long term because is it our goal to stay where we are for Linn County, have 10,000 people here, or is it our goal to grow, to bring entities here, to make this place flourish? Or what are we trying to do? I guess that's kind of up to us individually. My plan is to bring people here. But I feel like cutting all this stuff out this year is just going to cause me issues next year and the year after. I just don't think
It's going to always continue to cause you to work hard to save as much of the taxpayers' money as you can.
No, I agree, but I think
So but I don't understand how you see this budget right here, other than the economic development, as
I feel like we've just,
bringing people in.
No, I'm just saying. I think that we've been behind, and I think that it's changed. Nobody likes it. That's why we're having this meeting. This is the first meeting we've had since I've sat here. Every other year, it's just been like
This is the second year, though, of tax revenue. Before, there was a lid on it, and we always, it was kind of a,
last year. Now we're in a position where we're having this meeting this year, and we're going to be in the same position next year.
we're going to be every year. Every year from here on out, you should have this meeting
Well, I think
if you have to. Because before, when I first came on, there was a lid, and you made sure it was kind of like the military government. You spend up to it. If you didn't, next year you started there and started from there, right? And so we had the lid lifted in this. So it's just another problem to deal with. That's all.
It's a different lid than we had before.
Yeah. It's just different profit.
well, my hopes is that this jail will bring some revenue in down the road. And
I hope you're right.
I'm going to quote him on that. Remember?
What's up?
That's it. I'm glad you got hope. Before you was just dead set against it. The man has changed.
You're rubbing off on me, Rick.
Well, good.
Here's one last dig at revenue neutral.
Okay.
I know this is the law we're operating under now. I don't agree with it. You know that.
I know that.
We've had that discussion. What probably annoys me as much as anything on that whole law is the state is not subject to it.
And explain that, because you explained that to me.
State levy has been 1.5 mills longer than I've worked here. So almost 30 years ago, State was levying 1.5 mils property tax. The state overall value was, I don't know how much lower at that point, but way lower than what it is now. Because every year when we see these increases in value, that's part of the state value going up. They have never lowered theirs, yet they're forcing this rule on everyone.
It'd be a great story for our paper to write an article on and do some investigation on.
State and federal both, if they'd go back to operating like we're wanting to, we'd all be better off.
That was before I started here.
In '93, they added another fund that we had to collect, and it was half a million.
Yeah, so, yeah, and there's two funds in it. One of them's a mill and the other's a half. But since I started here in '96 and it was already at the 1.5 then. So, but Janet was here before that, and so it used
Wouldn't
to
you
be.
guys all agree you can't grow government to make everybody wealthy? I mean, that's not gonna work. I mean, and right down there, state and federal too.
I do agree with that.
I'll agree with what you're saying. I mean,
But they made this revenue neutral for us. I mean, we don't have to follow, we just have to mill it. But they didn't do it to themselves. I mean, it's a suggestion, and if you don't, you gotta let your people know. Okay, let's let them know.
But to me, we just can't keep kicking the can down the road like we're doing. No,
In today's economy, we cannot keep going down.
I'm kicking the can down the road for what we're gonna do next year. I've got hopes like.
I don't see it as kicking the can down the road at all. I see it as good government and work hard to get those budgets.
What I'm saying is, meaning dropping the revenue, staying revenue neutral with what we can do here. I'm counting on it.
So what's the proposal for Monday? It's going to come up. Are we going to try to stay revenue neutral or not? My want is yes, and my want is to have them with their 5% increase. But we need to come to some, hopefully, agreement. I just think that, I know you're against the full 5%, and I just think it's important to the employees. I mean, what, Social Security even went up this year. Their percentage went up quite a bit. And I'm not on Social Security, but I mean, I think that percentage did go up. I don't know if you can look that up or not.
Well, it did. If you were on Social Security and you were on Medicare would add the percent increase in Social Security.
Yeah, but that's, yeah.
But what?
Yeah.
I mean, it looks good on paper.
Yeah.
It's meaningless.
Well, I'll just go back to what it cost us with the benefit package and.
But what do we end up doing though when those guys leave? When we train, especially, and we always lose them in the road departments a lot. You know, we're paying them.
You go to the next county north, and that is what county you in. They just keep moving north. It don't matter.
I know, but when we don't show our employees appreciation and I say respect. No, I know you're not, and I'm not beating on you about that. I just think that was a proposal that came out early, and it came out by David, and I thought it was right on. So I don't think it's asking too much to give a 5% increase this year. And they got an 8.6%, and you're saying it's a wash basically because of Medicare. But I don't know. That's where I'm at on the whole thing. From a revenue neutral and 5% increase, take 50,000 more out of Sean's budget and don't mess with ARPA other than the 300,000 we've already had. That's the way. That's my solution for this year.
David, what do you think with Rick's conclusion? What do you think that'll do to us in a year or two? Your professional opinion.
I think to come out of this and not look at increases in the next couple of years, we're betting on getting more income from the jail.
Which I think is horrible
Because
idea.
I don't think without that, we can continue to stay neutral. Now, we don't know what that income's going to be yet. A year from now, we'll have a lot better idea.
We built it to be a revenue generator, right?
We did. I mean, that was the proposal we gave and there was all kinds of crazy ideas that came out when we were talking about this. somebody you know had proposed, well, why don't we just build a 300-man sale? and we said no, because it was all about generation. But I think with what we've got, and I think with the current sheriff and his hard work for, trying to get contracts and stuff, I'm not counting on it, but I'm not discounting on it either. I think it's potentially out there, and his cost will go up too. I know that as well.
I still don't believe long-term you can stay revenue neutral. I don't think it's possible because costs continue to rise. They're probably not going to continue at the rate they have for the past year, or at least I hope not, or we're in even more trouble.
Right.
But overall, through the years, costs rise. If your costs keep going up, you got to have that income from somewhere.
And if you look back at what we had in windfall and capital outlay and all that stuff over the years, we've increased it, right?
Yeah.
And we've done well, so well that we was able to take $3 million to help pay for that. And that
bond payments down to within what our sales tax would be.
right. And so that's where I'm at on the whole thing. You guys got to figure out what you want to do.
So the first deadline I'm dealing with on budget is whether or not we go over revenue neutral. Because if we are going to go over, I have to have a notice in my hand by July 20th that states that we're going over. Now, in our case, every taxing entity in the county has to have those in my hand by the 20th. In our case, it's me signing it and keeping it. So, but basically Monday is the deadline of the 18th for our meetings, when I need to know for sure if we're going over or not. Then I've got about another week after next Monday's meeting to put final touches on the budget and get it ready to publish in order to have our hearing by about the middle of August. Because our following meeting would be, the 25th? I could publish the 27th. And then I've got to wait at least 10 days after that to have a hearing, which would be like August 9th, but we'd go to our commission. The 8th, I think it'd be a commission meeting. Actually, could wait one more week after that for final touches and publish the first Wednesday in August and still have our meeting by the 15th.
When would your revenue neutral have to be out?
But the revenue neutral, definite decision at Monday's meeting, because
So,
Let's figure it out right now. We're here.
David, if we stay revenue neutral, and then next year turns to a complete wreck, is there a limit you can raise the mill levy next year? There's no limit.
no
to-
limit. It's just whether you go over revenue neutral.
We'll go from
Yeah, but I'm just saying next year we don't go, we decide we can't stay revenue neutral next year. There's no limit in order to overcome,
No, there's not a limit on it. It's just you have to send the letter out and you have published notice that you're going
so
over.
really, only thing we're gambling or we're jeopardizing this year is to have the income to continue for this year, is what I guess is what I'm saying. If we go and this is a train wreck,
I would rather gradually go up with $60. I mean, I'd just say whatever $60 on your taxes instead of $180 next year, and then.
Well, and I think
But that's going to be determined by the evaluation.
but and what Danny's saying on that is more the approach I've looked at for years of, if I know within 5 years that our levy is going to have to be 8 mils higher, I'd rather bump it up 2 or 3 times over that than hit people all at once with a big jump. And I think there's more danger of a big jump if we don't do some.
Or we could just work hard at not doing that.
well, I think we have a chance of generating revenue at the jail. I want to stay revenue neutral this year. That's what I want to do.
So Danny hasn't
I guess
given
you
me
get your
a
decision.
definite
2-1.
No, let's work at it.
I don't think that's a good idea. I think that it's just kicking the can down the road. I think that it's our job to, throughout the years, try to save more money within our department heads, like maybe on the gravel budget that's went up 400,000 in the last 5 years.
That's because they used to never put gravel out.
It's because we don't do the ditches is what the problem is.
And that too.
But I think that's stuff that we should be doing throughout the year to alleviate a lot of these costs instead of at the end of the year just coming in and saying,
Okay, so we can't all agree on the revenue neutral. What about the employee increase of 5%?
I'm at 5%.
I'm at 5%.
I'm not far.
You're not at 5%. So we can't make separate proposals, I don't think.
Well,
We could, I guess.
okay, so like I said, my first deadline I'm dealing with is revenue neutral or not. And I have to know by Monday's meeting, basically, because it's by next Wednesday is my deadline to know. Either way, after that, we've got a little bit of time to work on fine tuning budgets.
Are you okay with that?
Okay, I mean, I plan on doing that anyway, because, you know, what I gave you Monday was my first run putting everything in there. I can always change some. Well, we already know some changes we've got.
Quite a bit of changes today. Thanks for all their help on that
I
too.
have to get all that plugged in. I can look at income estimates some more. I mean, there's fine tuning to do in it, but if we stay revenue neutral, I've got a couple of weeks that we can work on fine tuning before we publish. If we were not staying revenue neutral, I've actually got longer than that, because we could just say we were going to go over, and then I've basically got a month or a month and a half to work on it. But if two of you are saying revenue neutral for sure, then
I'd like for all of us to say it, but
unless that changes by Monday, then that tells me we're not going over.
we'll just vote on it here in a minute. But Danny, is there any way you can move on that? What's your?
I just think we're kicking ourselves in the ass. I think that we're cutting all these budgets, and we're going to ask that next year runs perfectly and there's no issues and we make everything in the county work.
I don't think so. I don't think that's what we're asking. I think we're just saying, hey, manage your money right. That's all.
We still have windfall money, right? It didn't take.
Still have some.
Yeah.
Not as much, but
Right.
we'll still
Right.
have some.
Well, it's just like what I was saying is we're asking, and I realize there's gonna be hiccups in there, that unexpected things that happen. They always do. But you know, it's, I feel we're in crunch time right now. And
I've always stated my opinion, you know, as well as I do. I've been that way for since last year. And I think it's a good thing. I think you're trying to hold everybody you can accountable for their money spent, regardless of what the state does or the federal government, because we have really no control over it other than by election. And maybe if you're lucky, you can help get some legislation through to change it. And that always changes too. But that's what I see this budget as, staying revenue neutral. That's the reason I see it. I don't see us as you're driving county business away or any of that stuff. Yeah.
But I guess I don't see how we can develop the county and make it people want to come here with.
And that, I guess maybe that's my misunderstanding. I don't understand how you think that this budget that we have, it's.
We're asking all these people to cut all these numbers. I mean, Jessica has Jessica, for instance, she has a $5,000, I think it was 5,000, I don't know, for the airport and then the industrial park in Pleasanton. I mean, how do we, I just don't see how we can.
But that's, and I agree, but that's, on that part, that's actually economic development. But other than that, what do you see in your budget that you could say we're hurting the county by asking our employees and everybody in the county's employees to do your best to manage your money the best
I
you
think
can?
we should ask that anyway, 100%. But I just don't see how we can keep up with times and try to grow and not have an issue down the road if we try to stay revenue neutral. I just don't see it. I mean, I think you have to spend money to make money. I think that, the schools, everybody went over, you said?
I haven't seen all of them yet. Prairie View already told me they were going over.
And that's the way I say it, Danny, is just here's your money, county. This is your money. Do you want to give any of it back? It's hard to give back when it's sitting there, you're looking at it. You know what I'm saying? So it's not like It's not like you go out and earn your paycheck every day, every week, and you come back and this is what you have to spend. It's, here's all this money. Spend it or don't spend it. I mean, if somebody handed you a lump sum and said, manage your money and do your best, would you, and at the end of the year, I want some back, if you got any. I mean, what's the chances of you giving a whole lot back or any back? And that's exactly the way I see the picture. And then it's not our money. A lot of it might be utilities and all that, paying the bill, but it's really the people that's out there that own the properties.
I mean, I get that, but when we lose the power plant, it's going to be huge.
So we just tax the shit out of the people till then?
We're the lowest in the state.
We're in the lowest 10.
Okay.
I don't think out of 105 counties, I don't think that's bad at all. I think that.
But then you take two utilities in two counties. That's the only two that's got the huge.
So you don't think that we should gradually go up each year to try to make up to get to a higher point? So when that happens, or do you think we should try to stay at this number one?
I don't think we should keep the money every year. No, I don't personally.
Well, I think if we lose the power plant, I don't think there's enough people in this county to.
But should we try to get a plan together to try to make that?
Yeah. I just hope for a 3-0 vote, but I mean, I think we should call for a vote for revenue neutral and then let David work on it. I was just hoping that,
So what are we gonna do on the raise? And is it the raise on there?
we're going to work on that next week. We don't have to work on it, right? You said you could wait for a week or so.
Well, it's part of my calculation to get to revenue neutral. If that's where we're going, is I need to know how much to put in there to work with.
But if we just vote to stay revenue neutral or not say revenue neutral, you need to, if we say revenue neutral with the 5%,
Then I know what I'm shooting for and how much.
but we won't get a vote on that because we've got two people with different ideas on that as well. I am. Absolutely. Yeah. So we could do a separate vote, but you're saying it won't matter because you need the 5% in there anyway, right?
I need to know what you're going to.
I know.
Yes, you could do it in 2 votes if you want to. You could vote whether or not to stay revenue neutral, and you can vote whether or not to give a 5% raise. The combination of those two is going to tell me what numbers I'm looking for.
But you need both of those today, if that was the case. Is that correct?
It would be better because that gives me more time to work on it.
All right.
It's going to take a bunch of work either way to get it ready. Or at least by this Monday, I need those answers.
And I knew this would take a while because we're trying to work hard on doing what we're trying to do. Anybody need to sit with David for a while and talk about anything, or I'm set. If not, I'll just call for a vote. My motion is to stay revenue neutral for the upcoming current budget for 2023. That's my motion.
I'll second that. If the raise is not
Not in it yet.
I'll second it. Been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Okay. So now it's,
I just said aye, right? I'm opposed because I think it's going to cause us issues later down the road. And
all right, Danny, you like the 5%, I like the 5%. Make a motion.
I'll make a motion that we allow the 5% cost of living into this year's budget or next year's budget.
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Aye.
That tells me what I need to work with.
There you go.
And budget is all we have on today's agenda. That's it. Special meeting. We can't do anything else. So
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
Been moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I said there's a lot of people over there in the jail.